welcome to what I hope will be an engaging conversation today about helping clients navigate times of economic hardship. As most of you probably know, we do several webinars a year. Typically, they're more traditional in terms of like a PowerPoint slideshow presentation. Today is going to be a little bit different. We're going to have more of a panel. And the reason for that is, as you know, things are changing so quickly. We're all in unprecedented times, trying to do our work and serve our clients or serve our networks if we're at a headquarters level or a state level. And so we thought that the most helpful thing would be for us to have more of a conversation rather than a presentation today. Let me get my slides going here. Okay, so I hope that most of you are familiar with Switchboard already, but in case you're new to Switchboard, just wanted to real quickly let you know what Switchboard is. Basically, Switchboard is a one-stop resource hub for refugee service providers in the United States. If you haven't been to our website, I'd really encourage you to go to switchboardta.org, which you can see on the bottom of the slide there, and check out our resource library, sign up for our blog and newsletter. You can also sign up or request technical assistance, which is a fancy way of saying you can ask us to either for resources you're looking for or for a phone call or video call consultation. Sometimes we're able to put together customized trainings for networks that we can cater more to your needs. We've been experimenting also the past several months with coaching sessions, which is more of a small group approach to technical assistance. But the basic idea is just that we're here to support you. And so as you navigate this totally new situation, if there's things you need help with, please let us know. So I think I may have forgotten to actually introduce myself. My name is Daniel Wilkinson, and I'm the program manager for economic empowerment for Switchboard. And I'm also here with Saba Imran, my colleague who works with me on the employment technical assistance for the project. And I'm going to hand things over to her now, and she's just going to tell us give us a few tips just for the technology today. Go ahead, Saba.
Hi, everyone. I'm Saba Imran, Program Coordinator for Economic Empowerment at Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Service. Sorry for the tech issues right now, but I'm just going to go over a few logistics and tech tips for GoToWebinar if you haven't used it before. So you do have a few audio options. You can dial in using your phone, access code, and PIN number, or use the computer audio. Currently, all audience is muted and will remain muted. But like Daniel said, we do hope to have a conversation on this important topic, and we absolutely welcome your comments and questions. So please use the Q&A feature, which will allow attendees to type and send questions to organizers and panelists. And we will also encourage you to add any tips or suggestions you may have on the topics that are going to be discussed today. And we will be compiling a list of those tips and strategies to share out at a later time. So if you're joining as a group or using one computer and you did not register, please take a moment to chat in your name, email, and organization. And lastly, we do get asked this question a lot. Yes, the webinar recording, slides, and resources will be shared via an email following the webinar, and the recording will also be posted on Switchboard's website. And that's all from me now, and just handing it back to Daniel.
All right, thanks, Saba. Like Saba said, please, as much as possible, we want this to be a conversation. So we know with 224 people, which we have right now, we can't all talk out loud, but we really want you to ask your questions, share your tips, have a little conversation in the chat. So please do that. All right, so as you might remember from the registration, we asked you guys some questions about what you wanted to talk about today. And here's the three things that came up as we seek to adapt to providing services during this challenging time of COVID-19 and with the changing kind of health situation and economic situation. First of all, serving economic empowerment clients remotely. This is something that all of us, or almost all of us, are doing in some way, having to adapt our services from providing services in person to providing services in some way, whether that's job readiness or job development or other economic empowerment services online via Zoom or other platforms. Secondly, helping clients access public benefits or make financial decisions. This is a difficult time financially for many clients, with hours being cut or losing their jobs completely. It's a difficult time to be resettled if you're brand new arriving here. And so we're going to talk about helping clients access public benefits and make financial decisions. And thirdly, helping clients consider and obtain employment during or after COVID-19. What does that look like? How is job development changing? Who's hiring now? So hopefully by the end of today's discussion, you'll be able to walk away with at least one promising practice for one or maybe all three of those. All right, so let's get to the good stuff. I want to introduce today's panelists. We have with us a mix of different perspectives. We thought that it would be important to have people coming from different stakeholders and different kind of parts of our ecosystem. And so in terms of the frontline perspective, we have Khalid Ahmadzai, who's the Director of Economic Advancement at Canopy Northwest Arkansas in Fayetteville, Arkansas. We also have Carla Pasos Morgan, who's the Career Counselor at Lutheran Family Services, Rocky Mountains in Albuquerque, New Mexico. We also wanted to have someone from a headquarters perspective, and so we have Erica Boree. She's the Director of Economic Empowerment at IRC and provides technical expertise across the whole national IRC network. And finally, we have Miat Lin, who has a long history in refugee resettlement, doing direct services and headquarters work, but is currently the State Refugee Coordinator of Maryland, and so bringing that kind of state perspective to the conversation. So really excited for all of you to join us for this conversation. And I want to give the panelists a chance to just quickly introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about what they do, and then share maybe just one reflection or takeaway or tip from how the last 3 or 4 months have gone for you and for those that you serve. So Khalid, can we start with you?
Yeah. Hello, everybody. My name is Khalid Ahmadzai. I was born and raised in Afghanistan. I've been refugee a few times between Afghanistan and Pakistan. And since 2018, I've been working with Canopy here in Northwest Arkansas as the Director of Economic Advancement. Prior to that, I worked with refugee work in Afghanistan with IDPs and refugees. Just something that in the last few months I've learned is just a reflection over the life of refugees, and they've been through a lot of, as we all work with refugees, they've been through a lot of hardship. And one thing that I learned from our clients face to face was that their coping mechanism, they've built in a coping mechanism with pandemic or times of trouble. So just for me, it was learning from them about coping mechanism during this time from our clients.
Great, thanks, Khalid. Erica, go ahead.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Really nice to spend some time with you all today. Again, I'm Erica Boree, and in my role as Director of Economic Empowerment at the IRC, I do get the great pleasure of supporting all of our 25 U.S. offices in developing and implementing and strengthening their economic empowerment programs, which, just for context, includes workforce development, financial capabilities, small business development, and the integration of financial products to support those who we are serving through programming. In terms of things that I guess I've learned, or kind of things that have hit me in particular in the last few months, I think the one thing that has come up time and again as we have worked to really pivot and adapt programming is the really high level of not just hardship that families are facing from an economic perspective, but volatility and uncertainty. And so, you know, something like losing a job is in and of itself an economic hardship, but I think as many of you on the call have probably experienced in your own work, what has been particularly challenging for so many families is the uncertainty around maybe their hours were reduced or they lost a job. There have been a number of different benefit and stimulus packages, expanded UI, all these sorts of things. Cities are in some cases stepping up for things like rental assistance, but there's a lot of uncertainty, there's a lot of volatility. And so I think it's been particularly difficult both for programs to think about how do we best support clients navigating these very uncertain waters, but also for clients themselves to really try to make good decisions in a period, again, that's characterized not just by hardship, but also uncertainty and volatility.
Great, thanks, Erica. Myat, go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone, and hope you're all keeping yourself well and healthy. Again, my name is Myat Lin, and I've been a state refugee coordinator here in Maryland just over a year and a half. And first of all, I would like to thank Switchboard and Daniel for including me in this panel. And I know that Switchboard has done a series of technical assistant training webinars and other panel discussions, and I'm very pleased to kind of share some of my perspective here. So thank you very much for that. And one reflection I have, you know, Erica mentioned about uncertainty and mortality. But I also like to mention also that this is also an opportunity, you know, both for our clients and our frontline service providers and case managers, right? So for the clients, I think it is an opportunity for them to rethink, realign their career goals, and making sure that, you know, they are improving their employability. But on the other hand, all the service providers and frontline case managers, you know, they bring the best in those difficult times. You know, they bring in many innovative ideas, and also they are collaborating with other service providers in the community more. So then, you know, their clients will get all the assistance and the needs are met properly. So yes, this is a difficult time, but also this is an opportunity, you know, for all of us to help support and guide clients as well as, you know, case managers in the. Thank you.
Thanks, Myat. Carla, go ahead.
Yes. Hello, everyone, and thank you for being here today. I hope that our conversation will be helpful to everybody. I'm Carla, and I work with Lutheran Family Services Rocky Mountains in the Albuquerque office as a career counselor for the New American Pathways program, which focuses on upskilling our clients to move away from their entry-level jobs and actually move up in their career goals and maybe obtain job improvement through better wages or to a job that is more aligned to their career expectations. And our focus has been in vocational education and certifications to allow these clients to move up in their career ladder. In terms of a lesson and a reflection for this time, as everybody has mentioned, it's been extremely challenging, and I think everyone knows that and feels that. So one thing we've been trying to do is really help the clients see what kind of benefits are they getting from this time. And one of the things I've been telling clients and working with them is how their employability skills have been broadened now that they are more familiar with certain technology tools that they were not before. So clients are now better prepared because they've been using those remote tools for our own appointments and their own participation in the career programs. They can apply these new skills and this new knowledge to their own portfolio and their own job search. So we're looking really at the silver lining of using all this technology now and going completely remote fairly quickly. It's that our clients are learning how to operate in this remote world, and ultimately would be, you know, an asset for their job search in the future.
Thanks, everybody. This first question, and I should say we really tried our best to design the questions based on the feedback we got from you all in the registration. But the first question I want to ask is for Khalid and Carla. So you just alluded to some of the ways that your programs have changed in the past few months. What are some of the ways that some of the most important ways that you've adapted to serve clients during this time? And can you just share like a specific way or example of a way that you've helped clients navigate economic hardship during this time? And either one of you can start.
Yes, sure. So one of the, like I mentioned, one of our main focuses was to help clients obtain the certifications and the upskilling they need to move up in their career in the US. So we really didn't want those certifications and courses to stop just because we couldn't do them anymore in person. So one thing that we've worked on was adjusting our vocational ESL, English as a second language, classes that were offered in-house in our agency to a remote platform. So we've used Zoom, and we had synchronous instruction still with the instructor, so the client still had that one-on-one feeling and connection with their instructor that they had before, and with the other clients that were in their class and cohort. So we moved and adapted our vocational ESL to Zoom, and they could continue with their classes. The other specific technology tool that's been very helpful, especially for clients who were taking certifications that were not offered by our agency, but in different educational providers like the community college, and they had to move to an online class. And it was the first time for them taking online classes, or even understanding how to navigate an online learning platform, submit assignments, keep up with their tasks, right? So it's a big learning curve for someone who's never done that before, especially if you're taking a language class. If you're already, English is a second language, you're already taking a language class to improve your proficiency, and now it's all online, and you have to learn all these other skills to be successful in your class. So one thing that helped us was to really walk the process with them with a tool called Loom, which is a screen recorder tool. So I would record how to log in to their online learning platform, how to access their class, what they're looking for in terms of assignments, and how to find their assignment. And this is all recorded while I'm doing it in my screen, and you can actually have my little face on the side, so they know it's me talking and giving them the instructions, so we still keep that connection with our clients, you know. So that's been very helpful, because they could go back to that tutorial video anytime they needed, and I could record as many as I needed depending on the questions they had. So it could be really customized for each client certification and what each thing that they need to do, even for, let's say, unemployment weekly certifications that they had to complete online, for example. So once they had that video, they were able to do those certifications by themselves after a while, instead of relying on me every week to help them with the certification. So those are things that we've used to help bridge this gap of not having the in-person contact with clients, and still help them navigate the courses and the resources that they needed during this time.
That's great. Yeah, thanks for sharing that tool. So that tool is called Loom, L-O-O-M, like Zoom, but with an L. Is that right?
Correct. And you can
Okay.
download as an extension to your browser, and it will record anything that's in your screen online if it's a website, it will record everything that you're doing, record your audio, and even yourself if you want the camera on. So it's very helpful.
Great, thanks for sharing that, Carla.
Yeah.
Khalid, what have things been like for you all in Arkansas? Shifting to this new environment and serving your clients. What's a specific way that you've been able to kind of overcome the challenges and still provide your services?
Yeah, and as Carla mentioned, one thing that at the very beginning of COVID, as things were going towards shelter in place, at that time, some of the clients who didn't have access to internet, and we were able to talk to internet providers and get a contract for them for, and I believe that's a nationwide, that they offered some discount for clients to be able to have internet in their homes. So first thing we did was to make sure that all our clients, and we are dealing with a small bank of our clients, and we provided, we made sure that everybody is connected to an internet. And those clients who didn't have at home a computer, a laptop, or a tablet, then we were able to do some using our social media to raise some funds to buy them tablets in order to be able to communicate with them. And so those are the two things that we did in our end. At the same time, we had financial literacy classes beforehand, and we used WhatsApp for some scheduling time, scheduling place, but that expanded from just being WhatsApp as just a mean of communication for time and place to going further. And if they had any question about, obviously with the financial hardship that was kind of entailed with COVID, they had questions, and we were able to answer those questions through WhatsApp. And thankfully, most of our clients were able to take this financial literacy classes before. And what we also did was for digital literacy, we also had that option classes, and those who were didn't have the capability of or before COVID to come to these classes, we printed the books and sent it to them so that they would have access to, and it's very basic, like what is those books? It's just how to start your computer all the way to how to use Microsoft and Zoom and Skype and WhatsApp. So those things we were able to provide. And I think one thing that we adopted was to use WhatsApp as more than just a basic communication of time and place, but to use it more in terms of answering questions regarding their everyday life and the decision that they have to make. And it just became a more of a, instead of a group message, it became a private one-on-one with clients. And it has been a very effective tool that it was untapped before, and we've learned that it's a very good way to communicate and answer those questions.
And just to build on that, I agree, WhatsApp has been a great ally. We've created WhatsApp groups for our vocational ESL classes to share the activities and resources. And like you said, if they had any questions for the teachers or even for myself, it was one of the easiest ways for clients to actually reach out and for us to get a hold of clients too. So I agree, Khalid, that WhatsApp has been very helpful at this time.
Great.
Yeah, and just want to add something else. That we had the job readiness classes, and we moved those one to virtual and using FaceTime, and that was again at the very beginning stages. So we used Facebook Messenger and those initial things that they had at the very beginning. Zoom is kind of coming a little bit late, but we use that to teach those job club lessons and move.
Great. Thanks, Carla and Khalid. I definitely have more follow-up questions, and we have more follow-up questions coming in as well in the chat about remote services. But I do want to, we'll come back to those for now. So let's put those in the parking lot. I do want to ask Erica and Miat both to share some of their perspective, especially since you guys you have a little bit more of a bird's eye view perspective, kind of overseeing a network, Erica with the IRC network, and Miat overseeing the Maryland ORR service providers. And so wondering if you guys could just share some of the trends that you're seeing more on a whole in your networks, and how you all have been adapting, and what practical strategies you've seen work.
Sure, absolutely. I'm happy to get started. You know, I would certainly echo many of the things that Carla and Khalid just shared in terms of, you know, that network-wide, we have certainly seen the adaptation to be able to offer a wide range of services in a remote service delivery environment. So really relying on technology for instruction, for coaching, for case management, and many of the tools and the sort of strategies that were mentioned are certainly those that we've seen at IRC as well. I think in terms of kind of some other program adaptations that we've seen kind of network-wide, I would again emphasize that, you know, almost immediately once the shelter-in-place order started to kind of ripple across the U.S., our economic empowerment staff really did have to pivot towards, you know, what we internally were calling economic triage, right? All of a sudden, we had a high number of clients, you know, which includes both newly arrived refugees, but also a much more diverse and kind of, you know, larger population refugees that had been here for a while, who all of a sudden and all at once, you know, were losing their jobs, their schools were closed, their childcare situations were disrupted. You know, all of those things were kind of happening at once. And so we really did kind of have to see some real pivots towards triaging that and setting ourselves up to be in a good position to triage that. So, you know, repurposing certain staff and kind of the tasks that they had in order to, for example, support the crush of unemployment assistance with unemployment insurance. You know, in a matter of a couple of weeks, we helped like 1,500 people apply for unemployment. And as I'm sure every single person on this call knows, that system, those systems across the states were so heavily impacted, and it was very challenging and very difficult. So it was a very time-intensive effort that we had to sort of undertake there. Similarly, again, I think folks on this call are probably very familiar with the stimulus payments and some of the other benefits that that have been made available over the course of this pandemic. And I think, you know, what we often pre-pandemic have played the role of helping our clients, because of language and cultural and knowledge and literacy barriers, navigate these systems so that they can access these types of benefits. And of course, again, that just had to happen sort of times 1,000 in the context of this pandemic, because, you know, even for your average American who maybe speaks English very well and is relatively savvy in understanding these systems, I think we saw that there was a lot of, you know, confusion and misinformation and not being sure how to apply for certain things and that type of thing. So again, I think we really saw ourselves stepping into, a lot of our economic empowerment staff, stepping into the not unfamiliar role of being kind of that navigator and helping people apply for things. I think the last two things that I would say, or maybe last three things, just very briefly, I think we felt very fortunate to have a network of financial coaches, because we did really see that families were all of a sudden struggling to make very difficult financial decisions because their resource situation had changed, and they were trying to make choices about employment in a very unusual context, right? Not understanding maybe whether they would or wouldn't be eligible for unemployment for individuals who were self-employed or gig economy workers. There's a lot of confusion. And then of course, people trying to make decisions between their economic needs and their health concerns, right? And those are not easy decisions to make. And so I think we really were, you know, saw a real need to sort of lean into that type of coaching and that type of support. I guess lastly, I would say that, you know, as a part of all of this, and again, I think this is no surprise to anyone on this call, we definitely saw an incredible increase in the number of families who had an immediate need for cash. Even those who had been working and ultimately ended up being able to receive unemployment benefits, you know, sometimes there was a lag of 1, 2, you know, 2 months or more before that came in. And so one of the things that we kind of very quickly worked to mobilize to do was to roll out kind of a national system of both emergency grants as well as through our lending infrastructure, some special response loan products. So we've been doing 0%, no interest loans for payments for the first 6 months. And again, this was driven by a real need to help families get $500 or $1,000 in their hands within 24 hours or 48 hours so that they could do things like pay rent and that type of thing while they waited for either their employment situation to change, if perhaps their local economy began to reopen, or they waited for various types of benefits or other financial supports to come into the household.
Thanks, Erica. And I'm not sure if it's for other people too, but I think your video connection is really struggling. So I don't know.
It is pretty terrible. I think I'm going to just go ahead and turn it off.
Yeah, feel free. If it's not working for you, we can just talk to you over audio. That's fine. All right, Miat, what do you have to share from your perspective on a state level?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to touch, you know, what Erica just mentioned about decision making. And I think my role is to make sure that you know, our refugee clients are able to make informed and educated decisions based on the situation, based on the assistance available on the ground. So what we have done here in Maryland is that to bring in, you know, all the stakeholders and service providers together to have some kind of you know, a comprehensive goal towards, you know, how best to support clients, right? So one of the examples would be that, you know, during the ELSA classes by the community college, you know, we asked our colleague at the Maryland Department of Health to provide, you know, COVID-related or health education. So this is a collaboration between a community college and a Department of you know, Health. So we are trying to facilitate, you know, all those players and all the stakeholders to come together and how best to support not only the clients but also the case managers, right? Because all employment specialists, they are working with the clients on a daily basis, you know, very closely. And yet remotely, there's a lot of challenge for sure. So what we are trying to get to our service provider is the information related to, you know, virtual job fair. For example, you know, our colleagues at the Department of Labor here share regularly with us, as well as American Job Centers, and also, you know, the employers through the state government agency. So that's what we've been trying to do to get all of the information, resources, as well as information on the table, so then our clients can make the best decision for themselves and for the family.
Great, thanks, Miat. Saba, I want to check in with you about questions from the audience. I think we'd like to start finding out what questions people have and start talking about those. Was there one that you would recommend us starting with?
Right, yeah, thanks, Daniel. So yeah, we've had a few suggestions come in the Q&A as well from folks, but we did have a follow-up question that some people have tried to use WhatsApp to teach financial literacy over video chat, but the challenge is WhatsApp only allows 8 participants, and so has anyone found a way around that? And what other video chat platforms for low digital literacy clients that have worked well for service providers?
I think when we started, the initial conversation in WhatsApp group was the class. Usually the class had around 10 students, but when it came to individual, it's something that's private to them, so they would go out of that group and talk one-on-one, and we were also able to connect them with Credit Council of Arkansas, one of our partner organization here, that they are doing free counseling on financial decisions and payments or whatnot. So what we did was from the bigger group, dismantle to smaller one-on-one, and then if there was a question that was that needed a special concentration, then we were just forwarding it to our partners and introducing them in WhatsApp to say, okay, CCOA is here, talk to them and answer these questions, that they would be able to do that. And they already, everybody who participated in this class, which is almost all our clients, at least one member in the family, they had, we introduced them to CCOA even when the classes were in person. So they already had a knowledge and understanding of the organization. So they moved in from that. But yeah, Carla, if you.
Yes, to add to that, we've used WhatsApp in a similar way, more as the hub for the resources, but not necessarily as the tool for the class itself. So we have a WhatsApp group for English, for a ESL class, where the instructors share the links to the Zoom class, right? That way it's very easy for that person to just go and click on the link on their phone, because most of them are using their phones anyway, since most do not have computers at home, and their internet connection, from what we found, is often through their phones. So most of students will attend class using their phones, and then the link will be right there in the WhatsApp group. And then the WhatsApp group was also used to share the tutorial videos. Like I mentioned, we create a tutorial of how to download the Zoom app to your phone if you have an Android or if you have an iPhone, and that way they can download the app. They have the link right there in the WhatsApp group, and they are then taken to the Zoom platform for the class itself. And the instructors are there in the WhatsApp group as myself. If anybody has questions or is having any technical problems, we can, answer their concerns right there in the group. And also to share resources. So we share files, we share activities, different homework or practices they can do at home through the group. But we haven't used the WhatsApp for the video conference itself, but kind of as the point of resource to take them to Zoom.
Great. There was a question also about a follow-up question on that, just about privacy and if there's any privacy, client confidentiality type concerns. I don't know if you guys have had clients sign anything or if you've thought about that at all. I mean, I think we're all learning as we go. So there's, just wanted to ask if that's been an issue or a concern for you.
You mean just using WhatsApp for that purpose?
Yeah.
So like I said, we haven't been using WhatsApp for any kind of personal information. It's really just the hub to share the class resources and how to access the class and ask questions. But yeah, that has actually been brought up quite a few times in discussions with other staff, that even though it's an encrypted app, so technically it would be safe, I don't think we have used or have been, I don't think we feel comfortable using to share personal information about clients. So if there's something that would be confidential, we would use the phone or really like a Zoom call or emails, encrypted emails or something like that.
Great. So because we're running a little bit behind schedule, and we will go an extra 5 minutes till 3:05 since we started a little bit late, but just wanted to make sure we get to a few priority things that came up in the registration that some of you listed. A lot, I would say the majority of questions had to do with this issue of balancing health risks with COVID-19 with the need to work and economic well-being. Both of those things are well-being issues, health and economic well-being. And so sometimes the conflict has seemed to be an inner conflict with staff who feel like, should I be encouraging clients to go to work? And sometimes the conflict seems to be on the client side of maybe having a job opportunity or being told to come back to work, but being afraid to go back to work. Erica, I know that you all provided some guidance to your network just about client counseling on employment situations. Would you want to start us off on some of those kind of guiding principles to keep in mind?
Yeah, happy to. Yeah, I mean, I think you articulated some of the challenges well, both in terms of the tensions that a client might feel, as well as the staff member interacting with a client. And I think, internally within IRC, we kind of formed consensus around a couple key ideas that really are, I think, guiding our approach to this topic. And I think, first and foremost is that client agency matters. Client should have the ability and the right to make the decision that they want to make for their family. And of course, that's always been true pre-COVID, but is very much true in this specific instance. And so in thinking about that and how can we as an organization and as program staff best support that client agency, I think one of the things we really gravitated towards was the idea that staff can help provide accurate, thorough information about kind of all of the things that a family might be considering. And so, in really practical terms, that might mean sitting down with a family and kind of trying to go over their current budget or what they think their budget's going to be, in the next 2 weeks or 4 weeks or 6 weeks, so that you're making these kinds of decisions from a starting point of understanding kind of where you're at, financially. Obviously on the health side, also making sure that there's a good conversation about understanding who's in the household and what kind of health factors are at play. Then I think the next step in terms of information, again, is helping to ensure that the client understands, what economic benefits might be available to them if they're in a position where they, cannot work or are choosing not to work, and making sure they have accurate and complete information, and that we take the time and to really explain that. And then I think similarly, helping ensure that the client has, accurate or as accurate as any of us can have information about, the specific health risks, as well as the, the protections and the health and safety measures that could be in place at a workplace, if they're thinking about taking a job in warehousing or in food production or whatever it is that they're thinking about. And again, really the program staff role is to do a good job in ensuring that someone has accurate information, because at the end of the day, that decision really does have to rest with that client and that family. And so I think that's kind of been our guiding principle, as we've navigated through that type of decision.
Did any other panelists want to weigh in on helping balance that concern?
Yeah, again, I mentioned a while back about informed, educated decision by clients. I think that should drive what they would want for themselves and the family. And again, the case managers are doing great, but at the same time, there are a lot of resources, a lot of information out there. Be it from the state government agencies, non-profit organizations, or things like that. And I think, the ability to tap into those resources, combine them all, and make a decision as to how best to serve client. I think that's key during this difficult time.
Great, thanks. Saba, was there another question that you wanted to put on the table from the audience?
I think we're coming, there are a lot of good feedback and suggestions that we have. I just want to remind everybody that we will be sharing those out. But there's just one question with COVID-19 spiking back up again, how are agencies preparing for longer term financial sustainability of clients' families? I think Erica kind of addressed some of that, part of that question as well. But if there's any additional information.
So is that's related to clients' financial well-being or agencies' sustainability?
It looks like it's agencies are preparing for longer term financial sustainability of clients' families. I mean, I guess the question is, what are agencies doing? Is there anything they can do?
You know, I mean, I'll take a stab at adding a little bit onto that. It's definitely, you know, the million-dollar question, right? I think none of us really have a crystal ball as to what exactly, you know, our economy is going to do in the weeks and months ahead. It certainly doesn't look very promising, and I think we also really are, particularly for those of you who might have more of a national perspective, you know, we really are seeing a lot of variation between communities and states and different areas and that type of thing. So, you know, I think in terms of preparing, you know, clients to weather a difficult financial period, you know, continuing to, you know, when we think about our workforce development programs, I think really taking a fresh look at perhaps some of the occupations and industries that we are, you know, preparing clients for. We certainly know that even in this time of extreme economic contraction and massive disruption to the labor market, there are still certain occupations and industries that are very much in demand. And so I think one of the things we can do as organizations that implement career pathway and workforce development programs is to really think about that and sort of pivot towards those in our local communities, whether that's positions in allied healthcare or positions in, you know, warehousing and logistics and kind of that side of the house. So I think being attentive to that, which might require us to make some changes, right, compared to what we, you know, perhaps the career pathways that we were invested in prior to COVID. I think another thing we can certainly do is really building the financial knowledge and skills and assets of the families that we work with, right? Certainly having financial knowledge does not in and of itself, you know, necessarily increase your income directly in like that very direct sense in the same way that a job does, but families that understand how to make good financial decisions, what choices are out there, are going to be better prepared to weather a really challenging economic period. And related to that, I would also add, you know, doing work to help clients establish credit scores and build their credit can also be really important as well, because that gives them access to, for example, different types of housing options, right? You know, if they do decide that as a family they are going to try to move into a new apartment that's slightly less expensive, you know, having a good credit score might be make or break as to whether they're actually able to do that. Similarly, you know, if you have credit and are able to lean into that credit from time to time to help you weather financial hardship, that's a lot better than someone who doesn't have credit and is really very limited in terms of only being able to access, you know, predatory lenders, for example. So I think that there are things that we can do. And, you know, but it certainly, you know, the point is well taken. This has the potential to be a very challenging time, not just in the short term, but, you know, over several months and you know, a year or more for sure.
One of the things I like to add also is that, you know, traditionally, you know, most of the resettlement programs focus, you know, heavily during the initial resettlement period, right, during the first 6 to 8 months, early self-sufficiency, rapid employment. But I think we also, I've been having a conversation with other service providers here in Maryland, you know, to re-engage former clients, you know, post 1 year, post 2 years, you know, who might be ready to, you know, for a job upgrade, for example, or who are going to be ready for vocational training or certification training and things like that. So we're kind of pivoting a little bit to you know, have a scope of, you know, expanded services to former you know, clients, and I think this pandemic actually gave us that opportunity to, you know, pursue this robustly, you know, with our service providers, including community colleges, American Job Centers, and things like that. So, you know, not just looking into, you know, initial resettlement period of a year, but what else we can do to help, and how else we can engage them, you know, through the journey. So, and I think, again, you know, when I mentioned earlier about the opportunity, I mean, this is the time for them to go back to school.
Thanks for all of those thoughts. This hour together is going way faster than I wish it would. So I do want to make sure that we don't end the hour without talking about employment There are clients who need to work, and without knowing exactly what's going to happen in the coming months, I think it's safe to say that we've been in an economic environment that, at Switchboard for the past couple of years, we've been hearing, hey, we have more jobs than we have people. That's going to change, or is likely to change. And so things are likely to get tougher in terms of the job market. So my question I guess probably our last question before we need to start wrapping up is, what's working now in terms of what employment opportunities are you finding for clients now, and how can we prepare for a tougher job market in the coming months?
I'll take a stab on that. I think one thing that we've noticed that there are certain markets that Erica mentioned, like in health, CNA, in those fields, there's always a demand, and even higher demand right now. We have been receiving calls from some of those employers specifically asking for that. But at the same time, there's the area of meat packing, which is in Northwest Arkansas, is a little bit iffy. So we are certainly, that's an area that we are aware that it's going to have some impact in some of our clients as this progresses, and actively searching for other employers who are in the area. But our aim is to be able to secure a job before they lay off people from that job, and just to have the first bit. And I think, as Carol mentioned at the beginning, like it has been, COVID has been in one term, if you find the silver lining, is it forced our clients to learn some things that they thought was not possible, which was digital, able to communicate, use a computer, or digital literacy. And it has been that aspect of their lives have just improved, and which makes them a very good candidate for jobs that would open up. And so we are talking with them, and if we see some employments that are, it seems like it's more of a stable, and we know that where they are right now is not that stable, we just send that information to them and say, hey, there's an opportunity here. It's up to you, but just consider this as an option. So before things go south in our area, that they would have an option to think about in advance.
Yeah, and to just quickly build on that, for both what Miat and Khalid was saying, I do agree that it's important to focus on clients who are able to take some kind of certification or upskilling courses right now, because those will set them apart, especially in a more competitive job market. And a lot of jobs that are still available require some kind of certification. For example, drivers, that's been one of the things that I've noticed and that I've helped clients obtain jobs with, were for CDL drivers, and a lot of companies will actually pay for their CDL training, and they'll be employed, and it's a matter of, like we talked about and Erica mentioned, really giving the client all the information and resources they have to make sure they make the best decision for themselves and their families. If they think maybe being a driver right now is too much of an exposure and they're more worried about their health concerns, which has happened to a client of mine, they decided not to take the job. That's their decision, but there are still jobs available, and especially those that would require a specialized skill like that, or like Khalid mentioned, the healthcare area with CNAs, medical assistants, those have been still in demand and require certifications that, if we have clients who are able to take the time now to do those, and we're able to maybe assist them financially to cover those costs, I think those would be very good investments to help them navigate through this time, definitely.
Any final words from Yat or Erica? No? Erica?
No.
Okay. Well, thanks so much to all of you for being willing to be the ones on camera today and just kind of give everybody a front row seat to your work. And again, we know that all of you out there have your own expertise and your perspective would have been just as valuable, but we thought it'd be helpful to have a few different representatives from different perspectives talk about the work. Hopefully you were able to relate to some of it and walk away with a few ideas. And I hope that we can continue the conversation. So let me, we did want to leave you with some recommended resources in case you're not aware of these before we sign off today. So first of all, if you haven't seen Switchboard's roundup of multilingual resources on COVID-19, this is not employment specific necessarily, but it's just a lot of resources in different languages that might be helpful for you or your clients. Check that out. Secondly, Saba is going to put in the chat a link to several blog posts that we've done this spring on job development and job readiness, providing, we did a couple on job readiness, doing job readiness remotely, both for clients that are more digitally literate as well as those who are not. Also did one on job development strategies, and so take a look at those. Finally, two things that are actually attached, if you didn't notice on your dashboard, there should be a handout section. And one is a information guide from Switchboard called Supporting Clients During Times of Economic Hardship, Accessing Unemployment Insurance Benefits. And that was something I'd actually hoped to talk about a little bit more today, but we weren't able to get very deep into. But hopefully you can take a look at that and that'll be helpful. And then also from IRC, Protecting the Economic Well-Being of Immigrants and Refugees During COVID-19, Lessons Learned by the IRC in the First 30 Days. And so you'll want to take a look at that as well, just for some more tips from Erica and the team that she manages at IRC. Finally, we have a survey that we would like you to fill out just to give us some feedback. And I'll also mention that we will be looking at both your tips as well as your questions afterwards, and we will try to continue the conversation. If there was a question that we didn't get to, we'll email you and you know, try to address that, share resources, or just, you know, have some back and forth with you. I know we weren't able to get to everything today. But please click on the link, spend a couple minutes. I think it takes about 30 seconds, so it's not a long survey, and let us know what was helpful to you, what we could improve, and just generally what support you need during this time. Finally, here's our contact information at Switchboard. There's an email address, a Twitter handle, and our website. And again, if you haven't been to our website, please go explore. We're accessible to you. You can submit a technical assistance request anytime, and we'll get back to you usually within 24 to 48 hours. So hope this was helpful, and hope that this is the beginning of a conversation and not the end of one. And so let's keep talking. And thanks again to the panelists and to Saba for helping to moderate the questions. And have a good day, everybody.